Robert Osborne. Thanks so much for joining us tonight as we continue celebrating what would have been Fay Wray's 100th birthday. Now, Fay had one of those long-distance careers that stretched from the 20s to 1980, but we're concentrating on the movies from the best years of her prolific career, the 1930s. Our next film is from 1931. It's called Dirigible, and it was made by Columbia Pictures and directed by the great Frank Capra, just before Capra began his rise to fame, which made him one of the most revered filmmakers in history. In this movie, Fay Wray is part of a love triangle. Her husband, played by Ralph Graves, is a hotshot Navy pilot who's much keener about making headlines than he is about paying attention to his wife. Meanwhile, Jack Holt is a very dependable dirigible pilot who gives both aerial and amorous competition to the clueless husband. But the story is actually just a hook on which to hang some really spectacular in-flight sequences as both Ralph Graves and Jack Holt try to reach the South Pole via air. Now, Dirigible was the most expensive movie Columbia Pictures had made up to that time. Studio boss Harry Cohen was determined to have it be a great success, but for more than just financial reasons. At that point, Columbia Studios was a very small upstart company, struggling to attain the big league status of studios such as MGM and Paramount and United Artists. Capra was still finding his footing as a director, too. He hadn't yet hit his Capra-esque stride. The sign that that was changing, though, came when Dirigible became the first Columbia film to be considered important enough to have its premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. And in those days, only the most important films were premiered at Grauman's. Here it is, from 1931, Frank Capra's Dirigible. Well, I have to tell you, those snowy South Pole scenes were actually shot in Southern California during a September heat wave. They used thousands of tons of bleached cornflakes to look like Antarctic snow. The actors had paraffin painted on their faces to simulate frost, but the biggest challenge, said the director Frank Capra, was finding a way to have the actors' breath be visible, as it would be in such weather. What he did was give the actors small metal cages filled with dry ice that they had to hold in their mouths. Well, indeed, their breath showed up, but they couldn't say their lines with that contraption in their mouths. Well, in frustration, one actor, Hobart Bosworth, who played Rondell, threw the cage away, and before anybody could stop him, he put the dry ice directly into his mouth. Bad idea. He was soon screaming in agony and wound up losing 5 teeth and part of his jawbone and some soft tissue, though remarkably, after a few months, he was able to speak again. In other words, don't put ever dry ice in your mouth, even if a director tells you to. Up next, Fay Wray and Joel McCrea are running for their lives as a hunter uses them for target practice.